seeing my mother suffering, sleeping without blankets, sleeping without eating. That's what caused me to go out there on the street to look for money so that I can give my mom something to eat. I can buy medicine for my mom. The thing which used to make her sleep very well, it's about sniffing sticker. When you sniff, there's no problem, you cannot feel anything. You sleep without blanket when sleeping, and somebody can beat you, nothing can happen, you can't hear anything. You can't feel anything when you are high.
At night you have to sleep like animals, no blankets. I can imagine the situation right now. There's water everywhere, dirty water, a lot of mosquitoes. That's the other reason which made me do this job, because I've been on the street. I know what it means to be there, I know how it feels to be there. So it helps me to do this job because I already have friends from the street whom we used to be together at the same time, and they know me, and they know they could trust me. They behave like animals, but it's tough out there. It's tough.
The life in the streets is really, really traumatizing for a child. And some of these children have never been really anyplace else. They came from the village or the compounds after the death of their parents, and they ended up in the streets, and 3 or 4 years later they don't know anything else. So if you don't take them into a place where there's counseling and teaching and extensive parenting, just basic parenting, this is how to use a toilet, how to brush your teeth, then they never really fit into society. If you are a grandmother and you have 12 grandchildren all living with you, then by the time that, the 13 or 14-year-old gets to be big, then they're out. They have to take care of themselves, so they're in the streets begging money.
And here, in the place like Zambia, where people are dying of different diseases like HIV, TB especially, we have big number of these people, orphans, children, the vulnerable children, widows, and we cannot be blinded on this. We cannot close our eyes on this when we see these problems around us here daily.
My dad passed on when I was 10 years old, and then my mom passed on 3 years later. Most of the orphans are as a result of HIV, which has taken away their parents.
Yeah, in 1 month, if we tested about 150 people, we would have 30 testing positive.
The answer we should find is in the practical help to these people. Like the mothers, they need the milk in order to save their children from the disease. And we will talk to them, we can give them a lot of workshops, a lot of instructions how to live. But without food, without that milk, they cannot do anything, and they will start feeding again with the breast, with their own milk, and the children will be affected.
See, when we go to town, what we see when we encounter a homeless child, we encounter a guy who is dirty, in torn clothes, who is high on drugs, who uses bad language, who can steal from you if he gets opportunity, who might be aggressive. And we judge the child on that picture, according to that picture that we have at the present. And I think the whole problem is that not many of us make a mental switch, to ask yourself a question: what caused the child to become a person like that?
No food.
There's a system in the streets called the wives. So pretty much every child, a little child, will come in, and the big boys aren't big enough, or they're too big, so they can't beg. So they're not able to make money. So what they do is they take a little boy as their wife. And that little boy is responsible for sexual satisfaction, for food. Any money that little boy makes has to be turned over to the big boys. And in the end, then at night, when they all come back to sleep, horrible things happen. If the boy doesn't turn over the money or doesn't make enough, he can be beaten. He can be sold to another husband for sex. They can all go into sexual slavery. The girls, at any point in time, people can go into town and, you'll go in the next morning, 10 kids will have disappeared. And we don't know where they are. And we never see them again. If you're a young boy, you can be sold to the Congo for rebel soldiers. If you're a young girl, it's very likely you will have, I'm talking young, 9 or 10, not 15 or 16. The 9 and 10-year-olds are taken into Botswana and sold again and South Africa and sold into sexual slavery. I think it's the basic lack of humanity in the children's lives and the lack of adults with direction and compassion. And they have no idea how to treat each other. And so if everybody's having sex, then the little ones are having sex too. The girls, they don't even call it sex. They call it rolling, because it's all they do is somebody can go, they're sleeping in the streets. Remember, you have to picture this child is sleeping on the ground in a rubbish pile, more than likely, and anybody can go in and take them, and the girls just roll over, let them do what they want to do, because if they get conscious really of what's happening, then it's more traumatic for them. But they can be rolled up to 10 times a night. Think if this happens to you when you're 9 and 10, what kind of person are you going to be when you're 14 or 15? It's really harming. And then most of the girls are HIV positive because they're just too little and there's too much blood involved in the sexual behavior, and so they end up HIV positive at very early ages. I'd say about 2/3 of the kids come with some sort of STI, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, that's treatable. Many of the little boys come with gonorrhea in their throat, and we have to treat that. And it's so common that I know one little boy that literally wanted to come home with me so badly. And I kept saying, no, you can only come if you're sick. So one of the big boys told me that he kept just offering himself for oral sex to the boys. And then when he finally got gonorrhea, then he got to come to my house. So, it's so bad that they will make themselves sick to be able to come home with us. And it's not pleasant to talk about. It's not conversation you want to share really with people, but it is the reality, and it's ugly, and it's bad. And it's really important to get the kids out of there as quickly as possible, because the longer they stay like that, the less likely they are to ever change and want to reintegrate back into the world.
This is the Chisamba, deep in the rural areas. These children, they need help. 90% of these children are orphans. You find even reporting to school is another problem. They send them in the bush to go and man the cattle, which is not good. A child should be at school.